Hey, what's going on YouTube? You guys have tuned into that Reddit tube dude. And in today's video, we're going to be covering a Reddit post from r/news. Now, the news article here comes from CNBC, and the title of the article is Florida Judge Overturns CDC Mask Mandate for Public Transit on Planes, and I believe that also goes for trains as well. I'm not sure if it applies to federal buildings as well, but at the very least, it applies to planes and trains. So first off, it's interesting that CNBC in the headline puts Florida judge, right? Because they're already kind of trying to discredit this, right? Like Florida is the state of plague rats. Florida is the state of DeSantis. It's a Florida Trump appointed judge. Here's the thing. The Democrats are not going to fight this. So basically, they kind of get what they want. They can blame the mean, bad Republicans for overturning the mask mandate. They never had to make it go away. Obviously, as a society, we're very tribal. We're very divided. And even people who don't want to wear masks or don't believe in masks or don't think we are at a place where we need masks, people will still defend masks to the death because it's virtue signaling. And, it's showing that, I'm against Trump. I'm against the alt-right. I'm against the right. And that's what we kind of see in this post. Generally speaking, even the more liberal subreddits like r/news is definitely, Reddit as a whole is very liberal, but r/news is also very liberal. Even up until recently, the tone had definitely been changing where people were like, it's time to move on. It's time to learn to live with the virus. But in this post, everybody's kind of coming out like this is a terrible thing to do, even though it's kind of, a lot of the things we've been putting up with for the past 2 years are nothing but theater. It's kind of crazy that I can be in a crowded bar. I can be in a crowded concert venue. I can be at the dentist, getting my hair cut with somebody right in my face, getting a massage. I can be in any number of places in a city. We'll just say Los Angeles. And maybe I'm heading to, New York or Chicago or wherever else. And again, I can go there and be in a crowded bar with a bunch of people, getting a haircut, getting a massage. But for some reason, when I'm in this metal tube for the couple hours that it takes me to get there, and granted, in an airplane, we are sitting in close proximity to people, but airplanes have some of the cleanest, most well-exchanged air of anywhere we could be. I mean, an airplane is much better ventilated than a restaurant, a bar, your own home, or anywhere else you're going to go. And in the most ventilated area, we're all having to wear masks, even though we can be in close proximity to people everywhere else. It's just kind of silly. But let's take a look at this. We're going to sort by new comments. I don't really like going by popular or hot comments because obviously Reddit is very manipulated. But we're going to sort by new comments so we kind of get a more organic feel of what people are saying here. Risky move, just going to take out more of the anti-vaxxers. Probably not. Almost nobody dies of COVID. The death rate is like 0.2%. Even during the alpha variant and some of the earlier variants. I mean, at this point, we have the Omicron, which has shown, even among older and elderly people, not to be very deadly. I don't think anyone's really getting taken out by this. I love the logic. I'm tired and exhausted of wearing a mask. Maybe don't travel then. If you can't be bothered to wear a mask for a couple hours on a plane, then I don't want to sit next to you anyways. I mean, that logic could also be twisted to if you are so concerned about COVID, maybe you don't need to be traveling. We know that masks do very little to protect people unless it's a properly fitted N95 mask and people are wearing it in the appropriate way that they should be wearing it, which, let's be honest, almost nobody does. I guess with this argument, we could just flip this to, if you're that worried, maybe you shouldn't be traveling. So now it's a federal crime for people who still want to keep wearing a mask to continue to do so. And here's kind of like I don't know if you want to call it gaslighting, but just kind of like stupid takes. If you want to wear a mask for the rest of your life, nobody's stopping you. If you want to wear 6 masks for the rest of your life, nobody's stopping you. All this means is that everybody else who has a different risk assessment than you does not have to continue wearing a mask. Do they make anything stronger than an N95? Fuck's sake, a mask when we're all in a tube breathing recycled air is the least that you can do. Again, I'm sure most of you guys have been in much more crowded places than airplanes, and airplanes have some of the best air filtration around. Wild concept, but if you feel so safe and scared for your health and well-being, you don't have to put yourself into a tube breathing recycled air. If you are that fearful for your health and safety, you don't have to go where the perceived dangers are. Very good point. I'm just going to pay for first class, so I'm not a sardine packed in with filthy plebs who rely on horse meds. Again, more gaslighting. Ivermectin is legitimate medicine. I believe the guy who invented it won a Nobel Prize. It's a very safe medicine. Obviously, horse paste is not safe. People shouldn't be taking that. But the idea that we're calling, essentially a miracle drug horse paste is kind of silly. And I imagine if this guy was sometime in his life put into a situation where a doctor prescribed him horse paste, obviously it would be pharmaceutical grade ivermectin for humans, I'm guessing he would probably take it. Or at least I would hope so, unless he didn't want to follow science. Wow, reading some of these comments make me think most of you dorks wish you lived in commie China. Prior to the pandemic, covering your face on a plane was banned because terrorism. Now, with this overturned, this raises the question of whether you can legally still cover your face. This goes back to court one way or the other. I think for the foreseeable future, I don't think anyone's going to get a hard time for wearing a face mask on a plane should they choose to. Now it's time to do away with testing before entering the U.S. if you are vaccinated. I agree. I just had a buddy who wound up getting stuck in Europe for an extra 8 days after his vacation because he had to test before coming back. We're pretty much the only country still doing this, and I think it's probably time for that to go away as well. I think it would really help international travel pick back up. My feeling about this, and most people I talk to's feelings about this, is not really interested in taking an international trip until all of this stuff is done. In the past, if you got the flu when you were down in Costa Rica or Mexico or wherever else, most people would probably just get on the plane, try not to cough on people, and do the best they could to keep to themselves. But, COVID has kind of totally turned things upside down to where, oh, well, no, if you got this cold now, you got to stay for an extra 8 days and hide away in your hotel room. I'm loving this string today. So much about this story fascinates me. I'm undecided on all the merits of her argument, although at first glance I think it's purely political and a topic she doesn't understand or care about, with the exception of towing the party line. I'm not going to bother reading the rest of that. But, this thing was supposed to expire on April 18th. The CDC, or the Biden administration, essentially the same thing, since we know that the CDC kind of changed their stance and wanted sick nurses to come into work, and really wanted everybody to come into work 5 days after having COVID, just because they wanted to get people back to work, not because they were following the science. We also know that the CDC shifted positions before based on what teachers' unions wanted. So this was basically at the behest of the Biden White House that this was extended another 15 days so that we can study Omicron. I mean, we know that Omicron isn't that deadly, so I'm not sure what else there is to study. I'm not really sure what 15 days of more time is really going to buy us. Still no vaccines for under fives, no choice for them. Well, they have the choice not to go on airplanes. Also, almost nobody under 5 has died of COVID, let alone this new variant. And infection rates in some schools are going up pretty fast, but we might only know with the schools with rigorous testing like Boston. States openly defying the Constitution, 40% of them, 40% of the country totally cool with the coup attempt. Trump judges pumping his agenda. Okay. Good and good riddance. Good, it's past time. The masking BS needs to be put to an end. Mitch McConnell makes happy turtle noises when he sees these headlines. Some a-holes want this scheme to last forever. It's almost as if it was never about them and their safety, but was about their ability to wield fear as a bludgeon to beat their enemies. 70% of the U.S. is vaccinated. A lot of others have gotten natural immunity. It's time to move on. It's been 2 years. Somewhat mixed on this. There have certainly been some bullshit rules regarding COVID that proved to not be effective. I would say a good percentage of them. Also, it's becoming accepted that we will be living with some form of COVID in the future. I don't necessarily agree with these people on everything. However, at some point, people need to be responsible for themselves and not concern themselves so much with how others want to live. Wear the mask if you please. Now, that's another thing, about the CDC. The CDC is obviously very risk averse. Their job is to tell you about dangers. It's your job to decide if you want to take on or live with those dangers. And if you wanted to follow the CDC guidelines and everything, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be eating lunch meat. If you went to a nice steakhouse, you would be getting your steak cooked well done, not medium or medium well. You wouldn't be eating hamburgers. You probably wouldn't let your kids ride bikes. You probably wouldn't play a lot of sports. You probably wouldn't travel to certain locales. And I'm guessing most people outside of COVID didn't really follow very many CDC guidelines prior to it. On a plane now, they announced this at a gate, and on the plane that masks are optional. I believe U.S. Airways was the first one to actually announce this. Honestly, the less Florida, the better at this stage, and the mask deniers rejoiced. I still wear one to minimize me getting sick in general. I could wear a 5-point seatbelt and a helmet when I drove my car to make myself safer in the car, but like, is that really something realistic or something that I want to have to put up with? I could probably lessen my chance of getting sick if I never ate seafood or sushi again. I'm kind of willing to roll the dice. If I get sick from sushi at some point in my life, so be it. I enjoy the food, right? Let's go up and sort by controversial. I think this should be interesting. I only got a few minutes. I'm going to have to wrap this up here soon. A Trump-appointed activist doing what her masters demand. Is anyone surprised? So, I realize we're all kind of hypocrites, myself included. But just because you don't agree with somebody doesn't mean it's because they're a Trump tart or whatever. Oh no, this means I have to stop pretending to be eating or slowly eating carrots for an entire flight. Haven't worn a mask on a flight in over a year. And that kind of shows like how silly this is, right? Like, if COVID is so dangerous that we all need to be masked up, maybe we should stop food and beverage service on planes and actually make people wear masks the whole flight. That might not be realistic on longer flights, but on shorter flights, maybe under 4 hours or something like that, definitely doable. I got to wrap this up. I would love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you like hearing about Reddit news, Reddit stories, and Reddit culture, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below and ring the bell. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.